Good evening and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. And happy belated Labor Day to all of you. I hope none of you were laboring, or if you were, I hope it was pleasant labor. I don't know exactly what that would be.
I guess it could be like a hobby.
You know, yeah, we're working towards something positive. That's very vague, but yeah, like learning guitar. That's labor, but it might get your juices flowing. I have no idea. I'm Illeagle86. I am joined by Nerdbomber, who you just heard, and Techtic, who is lurking in the shadows. You have not yet heard him. Hello. He won't be speaking until he spoke right now. It was very quiet, but you probably heard it. And the three of us are here, as always, to talk about all things nerd. We have to talk about the Wheel of Time today, in the sense of the new Amazon trailer that we got for that. We have to talk about a new game called Project Magnum, which we just saw a really cool trailer for. And then we talk about my son, which you may be thinking, Illeagle86, is this what are you up to? Do you now have a son? No, I don't, unless you count my dog, which some people might. But some people get really irked with people call each other
fur babies.
I would call you guys fur baby. I would call you guys dog parents, right? But I just saw a tweet the other day that was like, no, the dog's parents are the dog's actual parents. And I was like, give me a break. I don't know.
I would disagree, though, because when
you adopted them.
Right, you adopted them. And when you adopt a human, you become the human's parents. So
I think if you take issue, I'm going to paint with a broad brush here. I think if you take issue with the phrase dog parent being used in relation to humans, just take a deep breath for a second. It's going to be all right. This is not the most important thing for you to be concerned about, I guess would be the main thing that I would have to say.
I mean, if I was trying to enroll my dog in people's school, insisting that he was my son, then I could get it. I'm taking it a little too far. But let me just call myself a dog parent in peace.
Yeah, no argument. Fur babies, I have no issue with any of that. And that's not what we're here to talk about today. But my son is actually a movie. And we'll get into what is specifically special about that movie a little bit later on. First of all, before we move into the news this week, I promised Techtic that I would do this on the show and potentially embarrass him. Although I'm not sure, Techtic, are you capable of being embarrassed?
Yes.
Is that?
But not with this topic.
We'll
this one I am passionate about, so go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, he's, spoiler alert, he's passionate about this. I guess it's really a form of a question. We could put a Twitter poll out or something, but it's better to do it on the episode, to the listeners. Do you think that light up sneakers, well, no, I should be less specific. Light up shoes for adults. Do you,
they
where do you see
exist,
that
but
going?
They're just not popular. And I'm saying, folks, we need to make them trendy.
They exist? I didn't even know they existed.
Yeah, it's weird third-party sellers, though. Not the super popular brands. Like
Amazon, and you don't recognize the brand name, but they look okay, so you just hit order.
Right.
I think what I'm saying to you, if you can't tell, is you should order some. I think that would be an interesting human experiment that would grant more data to this question of you should wear light up shoes for a week and see who notices. Probably a lot of people would notice, but B, what kind of reaction do you get? Because what I was saying before to Techtic, my main theory is that the main reason that kids want light up sneakers, because I did and every kid does, is to impress the kids in the schoolyard or impress their friends, because light up sneakers are cool. Are adults going to be impressed by light up sneakers? I don't.
Yes.
I wouldn't be impressed. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be impressed. I'd be like, wow. It's weird. I would maybe want to have a conversation with you. I'd be like, hey, what happened here? Or walk me through this. I see you have light up sneakers. Can you just explain that a little more? But I don't know.
I will gladly walk them through that with my light up sneakers. See what I did there?
I do, yeah. Nerdbomber, where do you fall on this? Let's flip the script a little bit, or change the question slightly. If you let's hypothetically say you had a husband who wore light up sneakers, and you were out on the town with him, are you embarrassed? Are you capable of embarrassment?
Let me preface with this isn't a high-end venue. This would be if we're at bars and stuff.
You're bowling. No, you're bowling.
I mean, bowling you would fit in. Because bowling is, midnight bowling is all sorts of neon lights and fun stuff like that. So that would be just well-dressed for the occasion.
And it wouldn't work because you can't wear the shoes because you have to wear bowling shoes. So,
light up bowling shoes. Why is that not a thing for midnight bowling?
That's okay. That should be a thing. Let's find some common ground. That should be a thing, 100%. But okay, so you're out of. Let's set the scene. Are you at a bar in this scenario that I've invented for us?
Sure, and I guarantee you, people will love them. People will be like, "Oh my god, that's so cool," and you'll be like, "Yeah."
There's like a drunk factor. I think I would be embarrassed to start, but then when everybody else starts to get a little bit schnookered, then people will be like, "Oh my god, it's the light up shoes guy," and then it's
peacock. It's literally called peacocking.
Yeah. Okay. You might. You know what? You may be turning me on this a little bit, but I want to know. Yeah. At OW86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber, at Online Warriors 1, our show account on Twitter, should light up shoes for adults? I was going to say, should they come back? They never really existed. Should that be a thing? Should that be a mainstream thing? Yeah. It's like, it's the kind of thing that like Reebok and Nike, you might have a hard time with them, but like Kanye, he's putting out shoes now. That seems like right up his street. Like, why is he not doing that? I guess I don't really know what's up Kanye's street these days. He just came out with a new album.
Donda.
I have not listened to it. That's not what this podcast is about, but he that did happen. Him and Drake. Drake also just came out with a new. I don't even listen to hip hop, but I just, I hear things. Let's talk about the Wheel of Time. That's much more up my street. So the Wheel of Time, for those that are not aware, is originally a series of books that is very long. I don't even know how many books are in the series, but it's been going on since like the 80s, I think. I can do some quick Googling here to find that out. But what we're talking about today is on November 19th, 2021, Amazon is releasing a TV series, or I guess the first 8 episodes of a TV series based on The Wheel of Time. And we got a trailer for that this past week. We're talking about epic fantasy here to give you a genre. This is, painting with a broad brush for all intents and purposes, think Game of Thrones, right? I think you're probably, think Game of Thrones, but like not less sexy. It's still sexy, I think, but like
fewer dragons, more magic,
and less sex. Like it's still sexy because like there's still like, but like there's not like, I don't think there's gonna be like what's like in Game of Thrones where like a lot of the plot just happens like in a brothel or whatever. I don't think that's what's going on here. I could be wrong, but this is it seems very witch forward, like a lot of witch stuff happening. I'm very into it. I'm a big Rosamund Pike fan. If you haven't seen Gone Girl, go watch it because she's phenomenal in that movie. She's also in Jack Reacher, which is a good movie. But she appears to be taking the lead here in terms of being a very, very powerful sorceress. Main character, no, I don't think so. But like kind of like a Gandalf situation, to kind of put it in the context of another fantasy series beloved by many. I don't know. What are you guys thinking about this one? Is this a watch for you? Is this a I'm not sure? Is this a I hate it? I doubt that. But
I'm always torn on stuff like this. So I have a problem where this is one of those books. I'm a big sci-fi and fantasy reader. People who listen to this podcast for the last 4 or 5 years that we've been doing it know like that's my main genre. And somehow the Wheel of Time has just always been too daunting because there's so many books. I think it's like 14 or 15. And I've just never gotten around to it because I feel like once I start a series, I need to read them all back to back to back, especially since they're all out and I'm not like waiting. And that's just a lot of commitment. So I haven't read it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to want to read it before I watch a TV show about it, because any adaptation, if I see the movie or the show before I read the book, I will never go and read the book.
14 books.
Yeah.
14 volumes in addition to a prequel novel and 2 companion books. I don't know what that means. First one came out in 1990, and I don't know when the other ones came out. I'm still looking into that. I'll get back to you. But yeah, it's a lengthy deal.
But like, let's see. This seems like it would be
when the last one came out.
This would be up my alley for sure. I struggle to see if this will like manage to garner the hype that Game of Thrones did. I think this, in the fantasy realm at least, this is obviously a more storied franchise because it's been around for so long and has been so prolific, especially compared to Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones is great and there's a lot of books, but not nearly as many, and it's not a finished series. But I don't know why I have a hard time seeing anything really capture that magic that Game of Thrones did. I think there's a lightning in a bottle effect that Game of Thrones managed to snatch up, and nothing else since then has really gathered that like massive following where people even outside of the genre, people who didn't like fantasy novels and had no interest, they got really involved in Game of Thrones. And like The Witcher is a good example of that, where, you know, it was a Netflix adaptation that people who are fans of The Witcher really loved, and people who maybe just showed up because there was a hunky actor showed up, like Henry Cavill, like, you know. But I don't think that managed to become a cultural zeitgeist like Netflix hoped. And I have a hard time seeing this hit that home run. I don't know why.
It's definitely worth delving into. I mean, you know, Game of Thrones had a couple things. There's common elements here. Like Wheel of Time in the trailer too, it very much hints at some kind of mystical, otherworldly enemy that they're all going to have to fight at some point, right? Which I haven't watched all of Game of Thrones or read all of it, but that's what I think the White Walkers are, right? It seems like there's a lot of characters that are interconnected. I'm inferring this from a trailer. It's like 2 minutes long, so, you know, sue me if I'm wrong. But I even want to read some of the titles of the books, which sound like Game of Thrones books. A Crown of Swords, The Path of Daggers, The Gathering Storm. These just sound like Game of Thrones books. Like a Storm of Swords and a Crown of Swords, it's literally like one word different. I imagine in a lot of ways they're very similar, but I think Game of Thrones, you know, there's a couple things you could say about why it was so successful. It came relatively off the heels of Lord of the Rings, which was a big deal, and in a movie sense, did a lot of the things that Game of Thrones managed to do on television, which is gather people who weren't fantasy fans into that genre for at least a limited amount of time. And Game of Thrones kind of rode those coattails until it got its hooks in terms of getting people invested in the characters. That may have been what drove it to be successful. Yeah, go ahead.
That's why I think you said something incorrect there. And why I think Game of Thrones was so successful is because you never really knew what was going to happen. Because like you said, people fell in love with the characters, and those same characters that they fell in love with got killed the next episode. Yeah. So it became this unpredictable things for those that didn't read the books. And that's sort of what made it this phenomena, in my opinion. And that's why going back to this one, not reading the books or anything, and I'm not going to. It takes me 7 months to read a chapter. With this one, the special effects, I thought just didn't look great enough to pull me in. I thought they looked kind of weirdly gimmicky. And then the other thing is, this is a wait and see for me, which is exactly what I did with Game of Thrones. I didn't watch it day one. I waited to kind of see what the hype was and feel it out. And then at that point, I said, okay, this is worth the hour and a half episode sit down through the whole season and really invest that time commitment. So I'm not a day one watch, but maybe it might turn me later on.
There are two things here too. So one, going back to Game of Thrones a little bit, like you look at the time when that came out, and I think streaming services have kind of killed, and maybe this is wrong because stuff like You and Tiger King came out and obviously were like super popular, but something about streaming came out and you don't really get that like massive weekly, everybody must watch this show. And maybe that's why you see stuff like Apple TV Plus with Ted Lasso, like going back to that weekly format. But when Game of Thrones came out, like people actually subscribed to HBO through their cable provider because that was a big way you could watch movies. You couldn't stream movies as easily back then. And now everybody's spread out across so many different streaming services. I will say though, Amazon has a decent track record with their TV shows, and you know, they have some pretty successful runs of shows. I'm thinking like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Fleabag won a bunch of stuff. And obviously those are more like comedy shows, but still.
There was that show that I watched, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm Googling it right now. I think it was called Undone. Yes, Undone on Amazon. Also very, very good. I'm sure I shouted out on the podcast at one point. I think the biggest thing that Wheel of Time could do wrong, and what it looks like it might do based on the trailer, is go into like YA category, like YA territory. And I don't think that's a good thing for it to do. I think Game of Thrones took itself very seriously, and that's why people responded to it. I think you're totally right too about this element of, you know, making it appointment television where every Sunday you had to show up and watch it or you're going to look like an idiot the next day. I have a love-hate relationship with that because when I want to binge a show, I want everything. But there's a definite magic to sitting down and watching Ted Lasso every week. Like it's an interesting dichotomy there. Game of Thrones, you know, Game of Thrones was a soap opera, but instead of like, in soap operas, no one ever dies, right? They get shot, but they don't die. In Game of Thrones, everybody died. Like, that was kind of the magic of it. I think you're right, Techtic. I don't know if it was also like the raunchiness of Game of Thrones that really, what made it such a cultural touchstone is a little bit mysterious to us. And I think it's mysterious to everyone. And that's why, Amazon's trying to figure it out. And they think that this is the way. Having a fantasy series of novels that's completed, first of all, which, Game of Thrones did not. They have a full, strong foundation of material to work off of, and that's going to help them. It's just a matter of how far they can take it. November 19th, 2021. I honestly don't know if, for me, it might be a wait and see for me too, but I also fear, like, Game of Thrones was a wait and see for me, and then I waited and waited and waited. And I never,
you waited
I started
till,
hearing
this year, right?
Yeah. I started hearing about people dying, and I was like, what's even the point now? I started reading the books. I fell off that train. I started watching the show. I fell off that train too. Maybe it's just one of those things like Pokemon that I just I don't get it. I don't know. Like, it was good when I was watching it and reading it. It was very good. It's just, it's an undertaking. I actually think it's an undertaking when you can binge it. Don't get me wrong. People do binge it and it makes sense. I think I would get a lot more out of it if I watched one a week. I watched it on its schedule. That might have been part of it. Like you said, might have been a big part of it. But Wheel of Time, November 19th, 2021, has a lot of fans, this book series. So I'm sure some of our listeners are fans, and they can feel free to spout off in the Twitter sphere. Handel's already mentioned, what do you think of Amazon's rendition of this? They're going to throw the book at it in terms of production value, so there shouldn't be too much concern there. It's just a matter of what their vision is and how it matches the vision that was in everyone's imaginations when they read the books. And I'm sure we'll be hearing about that this November. So that brings us to, we're going to shift gears here. Shift gears into Project Magnum. Now, first of all, amazing name. The best name of any game. And I think it's a working title. It's not even the official title. I wish it was, because it's amazing. Project Magnum is a new looter shooter game that just got a trailer last week for the PS5 and the PS4 and the PC, it looks like. I'm going to read the description of the YouTube video here. So this is not my word. This is verbatim. Combines RPG play with third-person shooter combat. It presents beautiful visuals and attractive and unique characters based in a sci-fi style player versus environment worldview. It also provides exciting battles using various skills, actions, and guns, as well as the fun of high-quality PvE shooter battles that target huge bosses. Now, first of all, what does that sound like to you?
Destiny.
Outriders.
Destiny. Okay. I was thinking Destiny, same with Techtic. Outriders, I wouldn't know. It sounds like you would. I think Ben is a big fan of that game too, right? So, I don't know. We can talk about this trailer. I think the most attractive single point to me, the grappling. The grapple gun situation. This is a weird connection to draw, but the Arkham games with the grapple gun, my God, it was amazing. I could do that all day. If that's anything like what this grapple mechanic is like, which it looks like it is, I'm into that. A lot of beautiful visuals, a lot of really cool gunplay. A lot of these big boss battles are featured in the trailer that they're talking about in the description. I'm hesitant and apprehensive about the RPG element, and in particular, the art style suggests a JRPG kind of situation, and traditionally, I ain't about that life. So, to use the same terminology as the last topic, this is a wait and see for me, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think of it.
I didn't get JRPG vibes. I did get Outriders vibes with a grappling hook. Like, Techtic, we played the Outriders pretty extensively. And this environment looked a little bit more lush than the environments that we saw in Outriders. But a lot of the feel, like the armors and stuff that they were wearing kind of gave it was like a post-apocalyptic-y, not quite Mad Max-y feel, but dystopian, feel.
I thought the armor still looked very Destiny-y to me, because there was even the one with the full helmet when he peered up.
What's it called in Destiny? Titan helmet with the horns?
I think that sounds
Maybe
right.
You're thinking of a different thing.
And I guess the question that I kind of want to pose to you guys, and what I've kind of been feeling lately, is I feel like we see genres come in waves. And I don't want to say this looks like another generic third-person looter shooter, but I feel like we get these games where it comes in batches. So Outriders and this kind of coming out within the same like 1 year time period. Same general gist, like you're fighting massive space aliens. You look like you're kind of a space commando in the future with like third person gunplay. A few years ago, we got all of the more like realistic military. A lot of them were actually Tom Clancy games. And it feels like they come out in batches almost. And like suddenly the vampire genre or the zombie genre will come back, and they all come in waves. And what I'm so curious about, I would love to be in like the planning room. Is there like some sort of like consumer study that tells all of the devs, hey, like this is due for revival.
A timetable.
This.
It's just a cycle. Just like a big spinning wheel, probably. That's a really good question, because I agree that there's some things that are forever, right? Like first-person shooters are forever. Like Call of Duty is going to come out with a new game every 2 years. It's just how it's going to be. But even within those games, like there's nuances of those, and like you said, like, you know, Outriders and Project Magnum looking very similar and coming out within a year of each other. Probably not a coincidence, right? There's probably some sort of focus group.
We got to make it different. Add a grappling hook.
I was just telling someone the other day about how dumb I think focus groups are. And that's a topic for another time. But like, focus groups to me seem so arbitrary. And I'm sure this decision-making process is not arbitrary, how they figure out, you know, what the next game is going to be, or what the next like gaming hype is going to be. I mean, some of it is, you know, you have to figure it out as you, like Fortnite, they didn't spin a wheel for that. That was a legitimately new thing that...
Not really though, because you had PUBG. You know, PUBG Battlegrounds.
Fortnite has the building part, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
A fair point. The Battle Royale thing. Battle Royale was a new thing. Adding building on top of that was a new... Like, there's still room for innovation. That's not what I think either of us are saying. But, like, the ebb and flow of certain genres is definitely interesting. I will say, I love PvE. I think PvE is one of my favorite, like, shooter style, and also like Destiny is first person, is it not? I haven't played in a long time. Destiny is
Destiny.
That's a little bit of a differentiation here. I don't know. This one just and when I said JRPG, I didn't mean. I just think the art style is much more. I don't even know. Like, I don't want to say it looked like anime, because that's not right. But like,
I think it's just flashy.
Like, yeah, it felt like
Fire Emblem
Bay
or something.
Just made the trailer. I didn't get that vibe at all. For me, the art style looked like you took a little bit of the light up gear from Gears. You took the overall skeleton from Destiny or Outriders, and then you took some of the bad guys from the Matrix. I enjoyed that. Those little octopi guys.
Well, we need to talk about too the giant glowing red balls in the sky. What's that about? Because that's a recurring thing in this trailer. And at the beginning, there's that big. It looks like it's a ball, but it's like made out of little...
Those are aliens.
Yeah, it's going to be like a hive mind thing. I'm calling that alien hive mind.
We'll definitely get into that.
It's never been done before, so they should go with that.
Looter shooters, you know, we'll get into it when we do What Are You Up To Wednesday, but I recently I thought about buying... You're going to laugh. I was like, maybe I should finally play The Division. Or even like just get The Division 2, like cut out the middleman. Just
The Division is such a tough sell for me right now. We tried playing this and it was like
too real,
too pandemic-y.
I was reading about it, because I was like, I'm just gonna play this single player, and like I know it's a very online-y game. I was like, I was like looking on Reddit, like, is this even worth buying to play single player? And they were like, the consensus was like, yeah, it's great, but be prepared to grind. And like that's how Destiny was too. Destiny was like, it's really fun, but like if you want to like have the most fun, there's like this pressure to like grind. And I'm sorry, that's just like not what I show up to do when I show up to play games. It's not grind. It's like the last thing I want to do. So I didn't wind up buying Destiny. I'll tell you what I wound up buying. What I wound up buying later. But that's another kind of roadblock here for me with Project Magnum. Is like looter shooters are very tough for me. I love PvE. Looter shooter is.
For me, looter shooters are what you do with friends. It's alone, they're just not fun.
See, I almost disagree a little bit. And this might be a personal thing, though. So I get swept up in inventory management. Like, I don't know what happens to me. I go down rabbit holes. I'm constantly cleaning up my inventory.
It's so easy to do in that game, though. And like in Destiny, that's like half the game is like, what weapons do I have? I have to drop something. Okay, I got to go figure out what to drop. Oh, God, there's so many options of what to drop. It's like, that becomes a big part of it.
Right.
I'm not saying that's bad. Some people love that.
I mean, I enjoy it. And especially I got over a hurdle like probably 5-6 years ago. I used to be that type of person who would like store weapons because I liked them too much and I was afraid of like using them or whatever. Or I used them, got a better one, but still kept it. And now I'm just like, yeah, sell that shit. Mm-hmm. But my problem is when I play with Techtic, I like to spend a little bit more time in my inventory than he does. So then we're in different rooms, obviously, because most of these games now you can't play couch co-op. So I'm like in our basement playing, and I just hear him in the earpiece being like, "Are you done yet? We've been looking at inventory for like 10 minutes. Can you just hurry up?" And so I feel rushed.
Hard about it?
You're just describing my Destiny experience. I used to play, and Tactic, you're totally right. Like I had the most fun playing Destiny when I played with Firestorm 501, one of our previous podcast hosts who was super, super into Destiny, like lost in that game, like super, super into it. And it was, first of all, it's fun to play with someone who knew what was going on because I had no idea. But it was just like you said, it was like I was a big pulse rifle guy. I would get a pulse rifle that I loved, and then I would get a slightly better one, but I'd be like, I can't get rid of that one just in case the other one like break. I don't know what my thought process was. Like, that's not going to break. It's going to be there all the time. But like, I just didn't want to get rid of it. And then you're just kind of like, your inventory becomes swamped very quickly. And then you're like deciding, okay, I have all these weapons I got at a similar time and they're all equally good. And now I have to like make a kind of arbitrary decision that I'm going to think about for way too long. And you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We have no idea what Project Magnum is going to look like in that regard. But looter shooters imply the existence of loot that you're going to have to root through and determine, you know, what you actually want. And like, some people love that. And there was definitely a time of playing Destiny where I got a lot out of that process. But it's, again, that's part of the grinding. And like, grinding is not a positive word for me. And I'm also more of a single player kind of guy. And like, again, I think I agree with you, Techtic. I don't think this genre lends to that too much. So it's a wait and see. Like, I'm not closing the door on it.
But that's kind of the thing. Like, if you wait too long, that's the other difficult part with these multiplayer games.
You miss the player base.
Yeah, you miss the player base. And then that's also tough.
Because that's the other thing. Like, if I had bought The Division this past weekend, like, it would have just been me. Like, who's even still playing The Division? Probably. Is that even still going on? Like, did they shut the game down?
No, there were still people playing. Because, like I said, Techtic and we have The Division and The Division 2. And we had started playing The Division like years ago when it first came out and then put it down. And we never finished the story. And we were like, oh, we're going to pick it up again when lockdown first started like a year and a half ago. We're like, oh, this is a great time to revisit this. And it was a terrible time because it just got too real at the time. But there were still people kicking around it for sure.
I love the idea of The Division so much. Like, just the idea of it was almost enough for me to just like, I'll buy it. And I know it's grindy, but like, I just love the idea. I love the premise. I love the idea of what the game is. I think it's a great idea. And maybe I will eventually get it and play it, but it didn't happen this time. I don't know. We're straying from Project Magnum. I mean, what is this a wait and see for you guys? Is this how do I buy it? There's no release date yet. There's nothing specific, but
so it's on PlayStation.
You had the option.
And my stance is if I can get a squad that all have PlayStations, I will buy it.
Wink, wink. He's talking about me, people. Yeah. Look, I'm working on it. Okay. That's all I'm prepared to say at this point. In the public eye of the podcast, it's a thing that's going on in my head at least. So wait and see is what it sounds like from all of us. But again, let us know on Twitter at OW86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber, our main show account at Online Warriors 1. Project Magnum, besides having the coolest name, is it also going to be the coolest game? There's some turn of phrase for you. So right now, we are going to head into our break. But before we do, we would be remiss if we did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Steven Keller. Steven, thank you so much for continuing to support the show. Thanks for coming on the show with us a couple weeks back. That was a blast. We heard about your experience with Shania Twain, which I'm still recovering from. That was kind of mind-blowing. But I just got sidetracked by Shania Twain. Steven supports us on the podcast by supporting us on Patreon at the night level, which is the highest of our levels, our 3 levels of support. And as a result, he gets this producer shout out in every episode. He gets input into the weekly game segment. He gets the occasional guest spot, which I mentioned. And he also gets access, of course, to the monthly secret segment and vlog. We just recorded a secret segment recently where we looked at, not AMA, Oh, Am I the Asshole on Reddit. That was fun. You can also support us at the Squire level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog. And there's also a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. For more of the details on all of those levels of support, you can head over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. We would love it if you gave back to the show. If you listened, and if you listened for a long time, you can help us keep the lights on and get some more content in the process, just like Steven does. So thanks again to Steven. Check out Patreon for more details, and we'll be right back to talk about my son. Today's episode is presented by Nexon. Virtually every chef agrees that a sharp, well-balanced chef's knife is the essential workhorse for any kitchen. A great knife should feel good in your hand, stay sharp, and hold up over time to the rigors of your kitchen. Simple, right? But behind these deceptively simple concepts are centuries of tradition, technology, design, and craft. Nexon spent 4 years developing the perfect knife because every little detail matters. Nexon went through 37 different prototypes until they knew they had the perfect knife. The final result? A knife that's a pleasure to hold, sharp enough to plow through even the toughest foods, and a blade that stays sharper longer. The best part is by partnering closely with their factories and selling directly online, Nexon is able to offer incredible cookware at wholesale pricing. Go to the link in our show notes to get your Nexon knife today. Nexon, the perfect knife at an unreal price. Okay, My Son is a movie. First of all, it's a movie. It's not, again, we're not talking about my son. I don't have a son. That's not a thing. Don't get excited. I don't know if you would get excited. This is a movie that stars James McAvoy. Forthcoming movie, a remake of a French movie, actually, that came out in 2017. A father whose 7-year-old son goes missing from a campsite in an apparent kidnapping. There's more to it than that, but that's the base plot. The interesting thing here, and kind of the seed for discussion, McAvoy, apparently, according to the trailer and the article I have in front of me, did not get a script. There are other people involved in the movie. It's not a one-man show. Claire Foy stars as the female lead. It seems like James McAvoy is the only one who didn't get a script, which, raises a lot of questions. It's a very cool idea. One thing the trailer says, the actor and the audience it's a mystery, right? So the actor and the audience are experiencing it and seeing it unfold at the same time, which is a really cool idea. But I have a lot of practical questions about that. I think James McAvoy is a phenomenal actor. If you haven't seen Split, pause the podcast. Have you guys seen Split? You two?
No.
Okay, pause the podcast and go. I'm just kidding. You can't pause. I'd be sitting here for an hour and a half, guys. Wouldn't make any sense. Split's an M. Night Shyamalan movie where James McAvoy plays 14 personalities in one body. You don't.
Okay.
You definitely don't. I didn't. I saw Split first.
See, I think that's what put us off of watching it. We had heard really good things about it, but wasn't it part of a trilogy? It was the third movie and you had to watch the first two or something, or I heard you had to watch the first two. So, just no, I'm not doing that.
Split is almost wholly self-contained with one exception. The only exception is at the very end. Spoiler alert. It's literally the post-credit scene, I believe. Bruce Willis shows up and says one line, and he shows up as his character from Unbreakable. And then the third movie, which is Glass, delves into that connection, but it's a connection you don't know about or care about until the credits of Split. And otherwise, Split's just kind of a self-contained psychological thriller / horror movie. And he plays one man, but he has 14 different personalities or something. I don't remember the exact number, but it's split personalities. Why I call it Split. And it's phenomenal acting. It's unbelievable. And also he carries it forward into Glass, and he's equally phenomenal. He's a great actor. So, okay, I have some questions about the format of this, but off the top, is this, let's call it what it is, a gimmick?
I was just going to say that. Is this gimmick
enough? Yeah, is this gimmick enough to get you in the theater for what ultimately looks like a fairly cut and dry, crime thriller movie?
So I think independent of them giving him a script, he was going to have to portray, which we know he's good at, some sort of emotion as he discovers what happened to his son. And right. Either way, you wouldn't know whether or not he was given the script. So really, that whole tidbit of information becomes just this gimmick. Because at the end of the day, when you watch the scenes of this is what you do for a living, there's no way those type of things he could have been not privy to. They had to give him some kind of a plot of hey, this is what you do.
Yeah, like character background. Like, this is your character before you go into this movie.
Otherwise, he could have just been like, well, I guess I'm an ice cream man on the side.
The best example, I mean, I get your point. I think there's a lot you could do without telling him where it's going to go. And I do think there's definite value to, you can be an amazing actor, but still the most genuine reaction you're going to get to a plot point is if the actor doesn't know. It's why, didn't Mark Hamill not know? Almost positive Mark Hamill did not know that Darth Vader was his actual father. Like, it was like 3 people knew it or something. Like, you're not going to get a more genuine reaction than if the actor doesn't know. But I completely agree. There are certain practical points. I mean, you can give a character a backstory and not let him know where he needs to go in a given scene. But like in the trailer, they show him punching a guy.
Yeah, how does that work? Because you'd need to have a stuntman.
You have to go into that scene being like, okay, James, we know you have no idea what's going on. But in this scene, at some point, and it'll become clear when we need you to punch a guy. Like, there's just no way. Like, there's certain logistics. Because the other thing that I wanted to bring up is, and I hope this isn't like blowing back the Hollywood curtain on anyone, but like almost every movie, like it's very rare for a movie to be shot in sequence, meaning that actors film the end like on day 2 of filming. And like, unless the production of this movie was so in keeping with the gimmick that they shot it sequentially, which I doubt, then the ruse is gone. Because then he might have filmed the end on day 2 and the rest of it on, subsequent days. Well, and then you don't get that revelation that, he's seeing things at the same time that you are.
For this sort of thing, though, I feel like you'd have to commit to doing it sequentially because, like you said, you're never going to get then genuine reactions if you're skipping back and forth. Plus, I don't know, like, if you don't have a script and you don't have a guideline, even the best actor, I don't care how good of a memory you have. If you're skipping back and forth, you won't remember what your character knows or doesn't know. So then if you don't have a script telling you, like, you don't know this yet, you don't know who your son's kidnapper or murderer is, and then you like spill the beans early because you jumped ahead late, like, I don't know. That couldn't work.
At the end of the day, he's an actor, and no one's going to know if the reaction is genuine.
Probably not.
Let me put something out there for you guys. This is all assuming the entire movie was done in one take.
I don't necessarily think it has to be done in one take.
Well, to say all of the reactions are genuine and real, that would imply that every single one of his reaction was the one and only take that didn't have to repeat it.
That's fair.
Well, and the other, and we're just poking holes in this now pretty mercilessly, but let's keep going. Like, the whole premise of this movie is it's a mystery, right? Where he's trying to find his son and trying to piece together what happened to his son, right?
What if he doesn't? Like, as the actor, what if he does not?
I was going to say, what if he figures it out in like the second scene? Then the movie's over. Then you've ruined everything.
When he finds out, he just hardcore eye rolls like, yeah, I know.
There's got to be a certain bounding box that he was like, okay, you can say he didn't have a script. That's fine. But like, I don't know. There's got to be some kind of bounding box. Like, there are a lot of movies. Like, for example, I'm like 99% sure, almost positive that Mission Impossible 6, Fallout, which, by the way, is an amazing movie, was like, the script was like basically being written as they shot it. They designed the shooting schedule of the movie and the plot of the movie primarily around locations. They sent out location scouts to find certain places that would look great on film and great for certain stunts. And they designed set pieces around those locations, and then they designed script and plot around the set pieces. So there are definitely ways to, make a movie without having a script going in. And there are certainly ways on an acting level for an actor to, how many great comedy actors, have improvised famous scenes in movies. Like, improvisation happens all the time. This is taking that concept and trying to supercharge it more than I think needs to be done. Like, there's probably a middle ground somewhere between having a rigid script and not, that is like, quote unquote, optimal in terms of like audience immersion and getting the most artistic yet genuine product. This ain't it, is my guess. But I don't know. That's, I think there's a lot of technical ways you could accomplish what they're doing without not giving James McAvoy a script.
I think this movie should be able to stand on its own, and that tidbit of information should have been something that kind of came out after the fact. Like one of those, oh, did you guys know? And you go, oh, wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Well, this is a straight-to-streaming movie, right? This is premiering on Paramount Plus, if I'm not mistaken.
Peacock.
Peacock. One of the P streaming
next week,
services.
by the way.
Yeah.
A week from today.
I feel like
super soon.
When you're in the streaming game, for the most part, you're investing in these original ideas and you want people to know this is a unique original idea. You need to come to my service and see this movie. Yeah. And if I watched the trailer without the knowledge that it was scriptless, I mean, it just seemed like a generic crime drama. You know, it looked like...
Taken. Kind of like Bandersnatch.
Yeah, like that. So I think they needed to use this. They needed to kind of spin it with the gimmick. I am kind of interested to see how it turns out because, like, I don't know. You don't give me a script for something and I can't guarantee good content. Like, even on this podcast, we don't script anything.
The entire podcast is scripted.
But we always guarantee good content.
But, like, there are weeks, and I think we all kind of trade off. There are weeks when some of us are on, some of us are off, but the fact that there's 3 of us makes it so that it always has good conversational flow. I couldn't imagine leading an hour and a half, maybe 2-hour movie. Like, what if you just weren't feeling it? What if the actor didn't work out? Like, what do you do then? You've already paid James McAvoy. What if he just doesn't work out?
And he has no accountability. Like, he could literally go on to a scene and they'd be like, all right, action. He'd be like, I am a serpent king. And, like, they'd be like, can they even cut? Because, like you said, it has to be one take. Or if they cut, they'd be like, "No, James, you can't be a serpent." Like, what do they say to him at that point? You know?
Well, it's
like,
not even maybe he wouldn't be so outlandish because you're still an actor. You still have to like have a good reputation in the industry, right? But still, what if you go in a direction that the directors and producers just don't jive with? What do you do then? Right. You know what I mean? Like, how do you salvage that? So I'm curious to see how it's going to turn out. But like.
It's kind of true of all movies. I mean, I agree with your, like, I think the fact that it's direct to streaming, and I mentioned Bandersnatch before. Like, Bandersnatch, the whole gimmick was it's a choose your own adventure, which granted is a much more powerful gimmick than this one. But like, streaming services, you need to get a little gimmick. They're so inundated with content, right? There's so much content to stream. You need something grabby to put asses in the seats. And I don't know, like, if this was a theater movie, I agree with you, Techtic. I think it would be more of a thing that, like, it might deserve mention at press junkets or, like, in IMDb trivia or, like, after the fact. But, like, headlining the trailer with it is, like, it gives you this overwhelming sense of, like, okay, this movie is uninteresting other than the fact that James McAvoy did not get a script. And the average viewer, because James McAvoy is a great actor, isn't going to pick up on that. Like, if anything, what you should do is you should get me to be in a movie where I don't have the script, because then my reactions, you would know whether my reactions were genuine or not. You could fact check that. You could say, well, does he actually have a script? Because, like, he's actually being surprised by things, and we know he's a bad actor because he sucks. So this is good. They're actually, like, you could verify that I actually had no idea what was going on.
I'm picturing you in the background with like watching things happen, just with a shocked face at random points, like, oh wow, kind of like a tourist watching something.
Right. Yeah. I don't know I don't know how it would go if I was in it, but like you said, James McAvoy is like a professional and everything, but it's just like, it's an interesting concept. Again, I think there's a middle ground. There are some actors that can't work with some directors or writers because some directors and writers want their scripts to be read verbatim. And there are actors who don't want that, and vice versa. So, it had to be a good fit between him and the director. Maybe the director went out and handpicked him, for all I know. But that, interplay between the script and James McAvoy not having it is obviously going to be critical to this holding up. And a week from now, in some sense, we will know. So the good news is not very much lead time on this, but it's also like, I didn't know about this until Nerdbomber told me about it. It's not being shouted from the rooftops. So that's another interesting element. Maybe it could turn into like a sleeper kind of thing. But we'll know when we know, which I know is an unsatisfying conclusion to this topic, but I don't know what more there is to say. I don't know that I'll watch it. But if I'm bored, which these days when I haven't started my new job yet, so I have some free time. So maybe it'll happen.
And you already have the Peacock, right?
Already have the Peacock. Haven't used it in a while. It's just one of those apps. I just like forget about it. Like I basically, it when I first got it, it was my Office, Parks and Recreation, and Harry Potter machine. And now it's just my Office, Parks and Recreation machine because Harry Potter came to HBO Max. Which, by the way, Harry Potter's on HBO Max now, in case anyone didn't know that. That happened like last week. So we'll see. I might check it out. No guarantees. Are you guys Peacock users or are you out in the cold on this one?
No, I don't want to see anybody's Peacock.
Okay. I see what happened there. Let's talk about what we've been up to because I don't want to talk about peacocks anymore. I have a pretty weighty update, so I'm going to defer. I'm going to punt to Techtic. Techtic, how's it going, man? What have you been up to?
It's going great. The biggest, most exciting thing is I started finally playing Pokemon Sword. And let me tell you, folks, I went with the water type this time. I picked good old Sobble because he was filled with existential dread, and I just related to that. I said, wow, that is me.
You don't come across as someone who's filled with existential dread, by the way, at least not on the podcast. So that might have been a surprise to some listeners.
I emanate positivity and good vibes, but it is
beneath the surface. It's
beneath the surface, correct.
It's turmoil.
So yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'm 2 gyms down, just slowly chugging away at it. And my gosh, I have been very far removed from the Pokemans because there is some creatures.
There's some new Pokemans
that I have never seen before.
Well, I think there were a bunch of new Pokemon specifically for this generation.
Yeah, there's that. There's like variants that I didn't see before, and it's just the typing is throwing me off on some things. It really is. Used to be simple back in my day.
Do you find it easier to play? Because I've heard you make comments while you're grumbling on the couch playing this game. Not grumbling, because that indicates negativity, but you like make comments as you play.
It's easier to level up your Pokemon because they don't become defiant after you hit a certain level. So you could just basically overpower everything for the gym, independent of types. The strategy requirement is now out the window. The only level requirement now that they have is it makes it harder to catch higher level Pokemon because they just won't. But then again, in the old games, you didn't get high level Pokemon appearing early on in the game. So overall, I'd say it's definitely been made easier between, you having berries to heal your Pokemon's condition that are like super abundant as opposed to having to find the specific potions and things like that. It's just, you kids got it easy. Back in my day, it was way harder, but it's still a good time. Still the same formula that works for me, and I'm enjoying it.
Good to hear. I mean, yeah, I'm obviously outside of the Pokemon ecosystem, so I have no real take on that, but glad you're having a good time. Enjoy yourself.
I will.
Nerdbomber, how's it going?
All right, so one quick thing, one not as quick thing. The quick thing is I'm still playing Hades, but I have finally beaten a full run. And then after that, I have subsequently beaten like 8 more runs. And I know there's like a final kind of story ender if you hit X amount of runs. So I don't want to spoil how many runs it is for anybody who's still playing the game. I do know how many it is just from talking to my friends though. So I'm creeping up on that. What?
There's nothing more amusing and fun for me than waking up in the morning and seeing that I got a message from Nerdbomber at like 12 or 1 in the morning, just being like, insert X game here is so addicting. Because I know that she's just gone. And this happened with Hades, I think it was last week. I don't remember. It was one day I woke up in the morning and you just said like, guys, I think it was like, guys, I'm scared. Like Hades is like you were scared. There was so definite, you were shook. Yeah.
Well, it got to a point like even when you beat it, even when you complete a run, because there's so much variation between run throughs and primarily there's a lot of dialogue and story and characters to talk to. And I think that's the thing that keeps me going is I want to learn the story. And so that just keeps me going. And the runs then get easier because you power up. And so they only take like half an hour and you're like, oh, I can just do one more. It's fine. It's fine. And then it's like 2 a.m. and you're very tired.
And it's no longer fine. Well, it's still fine, but like it's not great,
Yeah. It's a fun game though. Still recommend it. I think I've talked about it now for like a month. It's so great. Love it. The movie we watched though was Vacation Friends, and this is a new one. This had John Cena on Hulu. And it is exactly what you think it is. No more, no less. It is a stupid, funny, kind of drug-fueled buddy comedy that is ridiculous, over the top, and honestly, just what the doctor ordered for my weekend. It was kind of refreshing to just have a comedy that you didn't really have to think about. It ended up being like kind of feel good, and it was just fun. You know, you didn't really have to think too hard. Most of the comedies that we've been watching lately always kind of have that tinge of like real world drama or sadness. And this one just wasn't. It was just straightforward, entertaining, funny. I liked it more than I expected. I thought it was going to be too slapsticky for me, but I don't know. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Comedies definitely have a penchant, and like even Ted Lasso is guilty of this. I know we've lauded Ted Lasso every single episode for the past however long. It gets real. Like it's like, you know how funny this is? Well, this character has severe anxiety. Like, oh, man. I get that people have anxiety. Like, I have anxiety, but like, I'm watching this, so I don't have anxiety. Like, it's pretty.
Right?
Hey, I've never related to Ted Lasso more than this past episode, if I'm being honest. When he's fidgety and makes jokes because he doesn't want to get real. Oh my God.
As someone who very recently, without getting into details, was in therapy, I went into therapy with a very similar mindset to Ted Lasso, which is like, this is for the birds. It's not for the birds. That's what I can say now, having gone through it. And you know, spoiler alert, Ted Lasso experiences, I think, a similar metamorphosis in one episode. But we're getting sidetracked now. But yeah, sometimes comedies should just be like
stupid fun.
Hey, this is really dumb. Like, I always talk about Pineapple Express on this show, and that's like my dumb, don't care about anything comedy. John Cena is, I've said this before, I'll say it again, he's an underrated comedic actor, I think. So I'm glad to hear he's still on that ish, so to speak.
I think this would have done well at the movie theaters, because this is one of those movies that was originally slated to be a theatrical release, but then because of COVID, Hulu bought it out from, I think it was 20th Century maybe, or maybe it was Universal. I don't know. Somebody, like a big studio, funded this movie with the intent for it to go to theaters.
Right.
And I think it would have done actually pretty well there as like a summer stupid movie.
So I'm going to shout out a bunch of stuff. And it's all going to be brief, because a lot of it, the overarching theme of all of this is blast from the past. Okay. And I have mentioned I've had a lot of free time on my hands. Some movies that I watched. Devil All the Time. Not very good. Way too long. Very depressing.
That was like 3 hours, right?
2 hours, 20 minutes or so. Every character is bad in that movie except for one, which doesn't make for a very interesting movie. That's all I'll say about it. You might like it. I don't know. Robert Pattinson was amazing. I will say that much. Great actor. It's kind of a shame he did Twilight to start, because I think people thought he was a joke after that, and he's definitely not.
He didn't do Twilight to start. He did Harry Potter to start.
Okay.
Check yourself.
Yeah. Fair enough. The Manchurian Candidate.
Oh, that's an oldie.
2004 thriller starring Denzel. We were just scrolling one night, and we were like, you know what? This sounds interesting.
You hadn't seen it before?
I haven't seen it before.
What?
Disappointing. I was disappointed in The Manchurian Candidate. I don't love Jonathan Demme, the director. He's the director who did Silence of the Lambs, if anyone didn't know. His shooting style is very unsettling to me. And also the ending of Manchurian Candidate was bad. Everything but the ending was good in terms of like the plot, and the ending was dumb. That's a mini review of that movie. We're watching Clickbait right now, which I recommend. It's a limited series on Netflix, starring a guy who looks like one of the Jonas Brothers but isn't. And it's a crime story. That's all.
Like a cybercrime story type deal.
What happens is this guy is kidnapped, and someone records a video of him on the internet holding signs that say certain things that I won't get into because it's plot points. And they say if this video hits 5 million views, he's going to die.
That was the thing already. That was a movie, I'm pretty sure. We watched this movie.
Whether it was or not.
Techtic, we definitely watched this movie. It had Bo Murchoff from Awkward. And that's the only reason why we watched that movie, I believe. I'm going to find this. You guys talk. Talk amongst yourselves.
All I'm envisioning is a bus, but instead of, views, it's a miles per hour. And if it hits a certain miles per hour, the bus is going to blow up.
No, it's not like Speed. It's, I guess it is kind of like Speed, I guess, but no, you should try watching it. It's very interesting. I will say. We're only like 3 episodes in, so I don't have a full grip on it yet, but it's pretty good. We're watching a stupid reality show that I won't even shout out because it's really dumb. Well, actually, I will. You know the show Naked and Afraid?
Yep. Naked and in Love?
Naked and Afraid in Love.
Yeah, I saw that advertised, and I said, this is just terrible. Where have we gone as a society?
I'll tell you where we've gone. Yeah, there is where we've gone. I'll say what Nerdbomber said about Vacation Friends. It's exactly what you think it's going to be. So if you want that, then go for it. I want to move on, though, because I'm taking up a lot of time. Yeah,
I discovered the movie. It was not the movie with Bo Marchoff. That was a different one. This was Untraceable with Diane Lane, where...
Ain't never even heard of that one.
Yeah, he puts live streams of his crimes and murders, and then the more hits, the more people die. So, yeah, that was a blast from the past, 2008. I'm glad I remembered that.
The big news here, I'm back into the video game world. I tantalized Nerdbomber and Techtic last week, asking them for Switch game recommendations. In particular, Switch shooters was what I was looking for, which is a tough thing. They recommended Ghost Runner, which is not a shooter, but I did try it, and it is hard. I tried the demo for it, it was free, and I was like, I can't do it. So I stopped. Anyways, where I ultimately went, Nerdbomber made a suggestion to me called Journey to the Savage Planet.
Yes. Did you do it?
I did not play.
Oh,
no. Did you do it?
I did not do it. Guys, I went back to the well. I wanted to go to Switch because I didn't want to have to reset up my PS4. I'm in a moving state, as many people know. But I wanted to shoot stuff. I ultimately reset up my PlayStation 4, went on the PlayStation Store, and bought a little game called Uncharted: The Lost Legacy for $10. I had not played this yet. I'm a huge Naughty Dog guy. I'm a huge Uncharted guy. I hadn't played it yet. And I finished it today.
This is the one with the daughters, right? Or something?
They're not daughters. They're 2 women who have both featured in previous games working together. It's good. It's not as good as Uncharted. The campaign runs like 7.5 to 8 hours. I think I finished it in 7.5. It's like just shy of it's a little bit bigger than a DLC would be. Like it feels like half a game. Which is a little, I mean, I got it for $10, so who cares? But, it has a lot of the Uncharted elements, but it's missing the plotting that Uncharted has that I really respond to. A lot of the gameplay is really great, though. A lot of great puzzle solving, a lot of great climbing, treasure hunting, a lot of great combat, both hand-to-hand and shooting. You get what you're going to expect from Uncharted if you're a fan of the franchise by playing this game. So I can recommend it in that regard. I finished it in, I think, like 2 or 3 days. And now what's on deck... I also managed to buy... I mentioned last week or the week before, we talked about Gamescom. I was so impressed with Vanguard. I was like, gosh darn it, it's time for me to go back to Call of Duty. So I bought a copy of World War II for $15, and I figured that's going to be a good investment. I mean, I want to play a shooter. I want to go back to the World War II roots of Call of Duty. I figured this is a good way to do it. So I'll update on that for sure.
That was a good one. I liked the heck out of that one, because that was, I think, the first kind of foray away from the jetpacks and stuff in a while. And I remember
back to World War II.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into that game. A lot of time.
Yeah, I don't have Plus right now, so I'm really just in it for the campaign. But I think I expect it to deliver in that regard. We'll see. But yeah, that's my update. It took like 10 minutes. I'm sorry, but there's a lot. Look, when you're in between jobs, the world is your oyster. That's I'm sure I'll give further updates next week on many other things. But for now, Techtic has a quiz for us, and it's a doozy this week. Techtic, take it away.
The quiz topic today is Nickelback, the most loved band in the world.
Look at this photograph.
That checks out.
Every time I see it, it makes me laugh. So what the first question is when was Nickelback formed?
Who goes first?
You can go first. Gentlemen first.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, Nerdbomber sent me a link to Journey to the Savage Planet on eShop. It's actually only $12. So I watched the trailer. Oh, sorry, I'm still back on that. Let's get off that. Let's get to the quiz. When was Nickelback formed? This was in the 90s. This was 1995. I'm almost certain.
I don't have a lot of wiggle room here. Techtic is gaining ground on me. I'm going to say 1996.
So their formation was 1995. The band was formed
in the
early
kidding me?
1990s as a cover band called Village Idiot by the brothers Mike and Chad Kroger with their cousin Brandon Kroger on the drums and Ryan Peake. So yeah, 1995.
You tried. I mean, get God. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say.
Worldwide,
expert.
How many albums has Nickelback sold?
I'm going to say 8 because that feels right to me.
I don't think you understood the question. I'm going to let you re-answer if you want. Techtic, you mean like how many copies, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, more than 8.
I was like, oh, you're just relying on him to bust? Well, he's just going to pick 9.
Nickelback is bad, but they're not that bad, okay?
Okay, I'm going to reason that. I'll say 88 million. I feel like it's probably
I should have, after your dick move in the first question, I should have said 9. That would have been really pleasing. I said 88 million. That's too much. I'm gonna go with 1 million just to not bust.
So Illeagle gets this one as well. It's 50 million albums worldwide.
It's actually 8. 8 albums.
Go with 8.
Okay, look at this. Hey, I know my Nickelback. I'm not particularly proud to say that, but that's where we're going right now.
The lead singer of Nickelback, Chad Kroeger, is currently how old?
He's older than you think. And I think he's pretty old. He's 47.
Why are you so good at this? I'm going to say he's 50, but I think he is 47.
So you both busted.
I'll take it.
He's 46.
Oh
God, come on. I was so close. Wow.
However,
I'm proud for being that.
The OG drummer, Brandon Kroeger, is actually the oldest at 50 years old.
Wow.
Do I have a shot at winning this at all?
Yeah, how many questions? There's 2
You have a shot at
left,
tying it.
Okay, I can force the tie. Let's do this.
Do it. Force the tie. Come on.
Look at this photograph.
How You Remind Me is their most popular song.
This is how you remind me.
Where did it peak on both Billboard and Canadian Singles Chart?
Do we give you 2 answers, or is it the same answer for both?
It's coincidentally the same answer.
That's
why it's a fun fact.
This can't be. If it was 1, it would be too easy. Also, how does this work with busting?
We always mess this up. So Techtic, clarify it, because I don't know either.
I guess too high up on the billboards, so basically, which is a low number, would be busting.
Okay, so the lower you go, the more likely you are to bust.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say this hit number 15.
Oh, no way. I think this is 1. I'm saying 1.
It is 1. It was a
Are you
trick
kidding
question.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, get out of here.
Come on, that song was so popular. I was like, when he first said it, I was like, how is this not 1? That song was, we all know that song. It was like 20 years ago or whatever.
We might have to break out the broom.
Get out of here.
All right, so last question, just for fun.
Get the broom ready. Do I get the broom if we both busted on a question? I feel like that might not.
I got rid of the broom.
Just if
you guys told me to get rid of the broom.
Technically, yeah, it wasn't a clean sweep because you both busted on 1. All right. So how many nickels?
I'll take a victory lap.
Is Nickelback's Chad Kroeger worth?
Oh my God.
This is a fantastic question. This is just artful question design, first of all. I really applaud you. We all just want to be big rock stars, live in something, driving 15 cars.
Hilltop houses.
Girls come easy and the drugs come cheap.
We all
stay skinny because we just won't eat. I think he's worth 400 million nickels.
I have to do some math here. I'm going to guess
it took me so long.
That he's worth 15 million. Let me figure out
nickels?
No, $15 million.
Oh, okay.
How many nickels are in $1, folks?
20.
20 nickels in $1.
I don't know why I'm helping you. I guess I already won, so who cares?
What did you say?
I said 400 million. You would want to say 300 million.
Yeah. I'm going to go lower. So, actually, you know what? I'm going to say 1. Maybe you busted.
1 nickel.
So Illeagle gets it. No surprise.
Come on. GTFO.
So
I'm a Nickelback expert.
So Nickelback's Chad Kroeger's net worth is $60 million, which amounts to 1.2 billion nickels.
Okay,
this
hold
is
on.
How you
Illeagle,
remind me of what I really am.
How many times have you won in a row now? Because I feel like it's a lot, and someone has to take you down.
Look, I'm very good at this. I don't think we knew before we were keeping score.
Illeagle's also Nickelback's #1 fan.
Hey, you know what? You are damn right. I'm 14-2. I've lost 2 times this year. That's crazy. First of all, the year's almost over. We're like entering the last quarter of the year, basically.
I'm convinced you cheat somehow.
very proud of myself. I am not cheating. Admittedly, there's no way to verify that, but I'm not cheating. Nerdbomber, you are at 9-8. Techtic 7-9. And our past producer, Ben Checkness, at 1-0. Congrats, Ben. Yeah, I mean, Nerdbomber, you're in trouble here. Second place battle's getting real. I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to be able to hold on to first place and, earn whatever the prize is. I don't think there is a prize. I think there's a booby prize. I think we determined it's just whoever loses, something bad happens to them.
Do something.
No, they're kicked off the show.
Wow.
Three's a crowd. I'm just kidding. That would never happen. If anything, we'll add somebody, but that's also probably not going to happen. Anyways, I know a lot about Nickelback. That's the moral of the story here. If there's one thing you can take away from the podcast today, it's that I know a lot about Nickelback and their frontman, Chad Kroeger. And I'm proud of that. So we thank you for listening. Twitter handles previously mentioned multiple times in the episode if you want to go hit us up and talk about anything we mentioned today or anything else at all. Maybe you want to talk about Nickelback. Who knows? If you liked what you listened to, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can hit us up on Patreon. I already mentioned that info earlier if you want to get back to the show. You can also, get out there and
who
can you tell?
Your biggest Nickelback fan.
Yeah. Everyone has a huge Nickelback fan in their lives. That's a really good one, Nerdbomber. Go find that person that listens to Nickelback and you've never been able to understand it and tell them, hey, there was a podcast this week that had a segment about Nickelback that you would love and you should listen to the rest too.
And that is how you remind me.
Right, of what I really am. You all remind us of what we really are. And we thank you for that, and we'll see you next week.